Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to Kottabos Space Program, where today we are having a look at the Saturn V mod, which is being made by forum user DECQ. And what this glorious little piece of work looks to add into the game is, well, all the parts you need to basically recreate your own Apollo program, and it is pretty awesome. So let's jump right on into the vehicle assembly building and have a look at all of the parts that this mod does give us, and it's quite a few. So let's turn on our janitor's closet mod filter, just leaving on the ATS stuff. And we'll start, of course, here in the command pod section, where we have our first part here, the Apollo command module. And as you can see right off the bat, the texturing on all of the parts for this mod is going for more of that photorealistic style, which typically I don't care much for myself because I like Kerbalized stuff, but I just really gotta hand it to the beautiful detailing added in to this thing by the mod maker. I mean, just look at all the gorgeous lines, all the little signs, just all the little nooks and crannies of this thing. That's why I wanted to take a look at this here on this episode today, because it's just so beautifully detailed. So as for the stats on this thing, it of course is a command pod requiring one crew member to operate a maximum of 3 capacity. It is a lifting surface, has built-in RCS reaction wheel, SAS, the typical crew report, 750 electric charge, and 15 monopropellant. Now then, besides that, we do have the Apollo LM Ascent stage, which again is just beautifully detailed. Look at all the work that went into this thing. It is very cool. And this one, of course, also a command pod with a minimum of 1 crew member to operate, max of 2, has a built-in engine with 7.5 kilonewtons of max thrust and 280 engine ISP in vacuum using monopropellant. Does, of course, also have some built-in RCS reaction wheel, SAS crew report, 950 electric charge, and 185 monopropellant. And both of these have some awesome looking interiors, though to make them look their best, you are gonna have to have installed raster prop monitor and Ascent. So yeah, a lot of parts in these things. Now we also have the Saturn instrument unit, which is an unmanned command pod here, and is again just freaking beautifully detailed on this thing, and is, as I said, an unmanned command pod with a built-in data transmitter, a deployable antenna, reaction wheel, SAS, and 390 electric charge. All in all, a very, very cool thing, and just a gigantic, unmanned command pod for you to use at your leisure. Now let's pop these babies off and head to the next category, which is our beautiful fuel tanks. And surprisingly, there's not many. I would have figured more, but, guess we didn't need too many to create what we need. The first one here being the Apollo LM descent stage. Now, we actually have 2 of these, as we have the LM descent stage and the LM descent stage J, which are just 2 slightly different styles. As you can see right here, this one up top does have an extra attachment point in the middle for, attaching things. Other than that, though, they both hold monopropellant at 932, and again, very beautiful, very nice things. We got a rear box that we can open on this baby, and it's just a lot of fun stuff. Yeah, there's the box. Had to rotate around for it. There we go, for all your parts and etc. Now, the next thing we have is the Apollo service module with a built-in decoupler and 2,000 monopropellant. And once more, just look at the detail. It's gorgeous. So much wonderful work on this thing. It is pretty darn cool. And the next part we have is the Saturn S-IC, which is gigantic. Oh boy, yeah, really gigantic fuel tank. Oh, I may have to... You know what? Let's attach it to the top. That looks like a much better option for me right now. There we go! Gigantic fuel tank, which holds, oh boy, 33,899 liquid fuel, 40,332 oxidizer, 12 solid fuel, and does have that solid fuel powering some solid rocket boosters to help in separation, which will produce 130 kilonewtons max thrust, and of course built-in decoupler as well. All in all, a very cool part. Now the next one we have is the Saturn S2, which again will kind of pop on the top awkwardly there, and this baby's got a liquid hydrogen in it in a quantity of 122,021 and oxidizer of 8,134. And as you can see on the bottom, we have multiple engine attachment points for your convenience. Now, the next one we have is the Saturn, or S4B, which again, a nice attachment point on the bottom there, and just a large fuel tank. This one, again, having that solid rocket booster to help it in separation, producing only 15 kilonewtons of thrust, and has liquid hydrogen in a quantity of 45,888, and oxidizer of 3,192, and just a mere 3 solid fuel. All in all, though, another cool looking tank. Now that is it for the fuel tank category, so let's move down to engines, where we got a fair few. We have the Apollo AG-10-137 producing 67 max kilonewtons of thrust, 314 on the ISP using monopropellant. Good engine there. We also have the Apollo Launch Escape System, which is a decoupler on that thing. That's awkwardly placed at the moment. Oh, that's very awkwardly placed that I can't get it out. But yeah, if attached properly, it's a decoupler that then works in conjunction with this, the actual LES jettison motor with 440 kilonewtons of thrust on a solid rocket booster. We then have the Apollo LES pitch motor with 9 kilonewtons of thrust, and it is a solid rocket booster there. Just a nice little engine topper for that. We then have the Apollo LMDE with 40 kilonewtons of thrust. It is a monopropellant engine. And that one, oh yeah, I forgot that attaches that way, so we can put it on top. There we are. Lovely. It fits in its proper place where it needs to go. But on this, not quite so much. And so, yes, there we go. Lovely little engine. We then have the Saturn F1 producing 1,840 kilonewtons of thrust. That's the big boy engine right there. And this one using liquid fuel and oxidizer, and with an engine ISP of 260 max in vacuum. We then have the Saturn F1, another biggin, producing 1,840 kilonewtons of thrust with 260 ISP using liquid fuel and oxidizer, gimbling range of 2.9. Lovely thing. We then have the J2, a little bit smaller than the previous one, doing 423 kilonewtons of max thrust and 351 on the engine ISP, using liquid hydrogen and oxidizer, and a 3.9 degree vectoring range. And finally in the engine we have the S2 Ullage motor with 71 kilonewtons of thrust, and is a solid rocket booster and a lovely little radially attached engine there. Very good. Now next is in command and control, we have the Apollo SMRCS thruster blocks right there, which we can place, and the Saturn S4B APS engine, which has a thrust of 17 kilonewtons in vacuum, engine ISP of 250 using monopropellant, and does also have RCS, and a tank of 140 monopropellants. Actually zoom in on those parts since they are a bit smaller than the previous engines we were looking at. Very cool, very nice parts. Let's chuck both those off though now. Now in structural, we have, oh boy, a complete and full-size Saturn V launch tower, which is, you know, basically a, oh boy, just a gigantic freaking thing. Do we have an attachment point to attach this thing to somewhere? Oh, yep, there we go. But, oh god, it's so large it puts me into the description, so I can't click. Okay, if we do that, there we go, angled properly, and we have a gigantic full-size tower, really meant to be the first part of construction, because, well, it'll hold your ship in place for launch and produces electricity of 1 per second. So there we go, a lovely gigantic tower. And then in coupling, oh boy, we got a fair few things here, so let's zoom in a bit. And we have the Apollo docking port, which is a docking node and a decoupler. Pop that baby right on there. Very nice looking, as you can see, again, as with all the parts, good detail. We then have the LM docking port, which is a docking port. There we are. We then have the LM separator, a nice separator there. Very good looking. We then have the S4B fairing top in a sort of angular version. We then have a rounded version. And then we have an interstage section, which is a decoupler. It does have a built-in solid rocket booster, as you can see right there, producing 35 kilonewtons of thrust. And it's a big one right there, but it is very useful. Next, we have the SLA decoupler, a bit more standard of a decoupler that we normally see in the game. We then have another interstage section, this one there, just being a decoupler. Perfect. We then have an interstage separator, which, as you can see, some attachment points on the side for the fairings to go onto. And then we have some fairing bases. We have this version here, as you can see, quite tall. We then have a second version of it that, as you can see here, is just a smaller one. We then also have two more top fairings, again an angular one and a rounded one, complementing the one from before. And then finally another interstage separator, the smaller version, and again with the attachment points on the sides for the fairings. There we go. Now in payload, we have the Saturn F1 SLA decoupler. Don't know why that's in payload, but there it is. And it's wonderful. We then also have the SLA basis, which, excellent, has 4 different attachment points along the side for you to use, and again, a decoupler in the payload area. And finally, we have the SLA Shield, which actually I probably should have kept this out for that. These then, go onto there. Excellent. All things fitting together in their place. Now in aerodynamics, we have nothing. In ground, we actually have the LRV. A lovely... Oh boy, this is probably going to be the worst way to show this thing off. Let's find a part that maybe would fit better. Yes, a giant fuel tank. Then... still really doesn't show it off well. Okay, yeah, all the attachment points are weird, but basically it's a tiny little rover that unfolds, and it's gorgeous. Yes, it does actually unfold. If we could actually do there we go. We can kind of place it there. And gear deployment. There we are. And it folds out into a beautiful, beautiful little lunar rover for you to use. I really like this thing. This is honestly, I think, one of my favorite parts in this entire mod, just because I like an all-in-one pre-built rover. It intrigues me. Now in thermal, we do have the heat shield for the Apollo craft, which, considering my horrible placement of that one thing, oh no, it still goes. There we are. Lovely. Heat shield. We then, in electrical, got nothing. Communication, we have the Apollo high gain antennae, which... there we are. Lovely. Is for an attachment point, and then we have this antennae also going with an attachment point. Let's actually exchange those out so we can then take a look at that one. There we are. Lovely antennae. And then in science, we have the Apollo sub-satellite, which does actually count as an unmanned command pod with a data transmitter built into it, a decoupler, deployable antenna, an engine with 0.05 kilonewtons of thrust with 10 ISP using solid fuel, and a reaction wheel SAS 60 electric charge, and a very minuscule amount of solid fuel that it doesn't even really register on the thing. And, well, it's so tiny, it's kind of hard for me to even put it on an attachment node that does work. There it is. It's a tiny little thing, but a cool part nonetheless. And finally, in utility, we have the Apollo Drogue Chutes, which, oh god, I've really screwed up the attachment points on this thing. But yes, it's a lovely little chute. There we go. We then also have the Apollo main chutes, which, if I remove the antenna, that might actually go on there. There we are, the main chutes, and finally, the parachute coupler, which, yes, goes hideously there. Once more, if I wouldn't have messed up the placement of that one piece, we probably would have had things fit a bit better. But as it stands, still, we got through all the parts, and it's a lot of things. Oh boy, all very beautifully made that allow us to build this. If I zoom out, there we go, a giant Saturn V Apollo rocket. Now, thankfully, the mod maker included this particular file into the mod download, so it is a fully pre-built version, so you don't have to figure out everything on your own. But yeah, we got the whole setup in this thing, and it is beautiful. So let's actually pop Valentina Kerbin into the LM Ascent stage there so we can see the interiors on both, and head out to the launch pad to take a brief look at this baby and then quickly launch it into space. Well, at least launch it into the air and see what happens. I actually haven't flown this thing yet since it came with the mod. I just figured it would work. But yes, as you can see, we have a just gorgeous whole tower. I really do like that thing. It's gigantic, but it's just beautiful and works quite well when you do stage to launch. The crane there moves to the side and things kind of move away, and the rocket launches safely in the few small tests that I did do just with the tower. The rocket, though, oh boy, we'll see if that works here in a moment. Now, as for the interior view, let's go into Jebediah, and again, as you can see, it's very much that photorealistic interior, which for this works for the most part, except for this. This is really my one complaint with this mod. So much detailing, and then we just have a photo of the hatch. There's really no actual detail to it. It's just a flat photo that just looks kind of weird. I mean, all the controls, they're using the asset pack and raster prop monitor to make everything work, and it looks gorgeous. Just every one of these switches is an asset placed into this cockpit here. And then we have just a picture of a hatch. It's weird. I love this mod. It's great parts, but that right there does kind of get me. But overall, a beautiful interior, very, very amazingly made. Let's go to the other seat here once more. Lots of detail. So many switches everywhere. It's gorgeous. And then that seat there with, oh, the lovely little lane piece. And yes, just all good, solid quality parts. And then in the Lunar Module, we have, again, another gorgeously detailed interior. I really do like all of it. We have that aiming eyepiece there for docking again. We've got all that stuff there for landing. We've got our gimbal, our abort mission button. Just so many things in here are all just great. It is wonderfully created. And so yes, that is the interior there, so let's just give this thing a quick launch. We're not actually going to get it into space because, well, we don't need to see that. That's for you all to try and have fun with. Let's just launch and have a bit of fun. So there we go, all of the parts of the launch tower did release, and we are on our way to the stars. Well, more specifically, we're on our way to the moon, but you know, it works, it works. And we have a glorious engine, good trail there, good fire effects, good heating effects on the actual engines themselves. All in all, quite well made. Now, I don't have smoke coming off of it, but I think that might be my fault, because one of the requirements for it is real plume, and I honestly think I may have incorrectly installed that. But still, it works quite nicely. So let's just cut that in. Oop, wrong button. Cut that engine, decouple, there go those solid rocket boosters, and then fire the engines for the next stage there just to show them off, and let that other section fall back to terra firma and probably destroy a building. Alright, so some good solid engines there, and if we cut them, stage again, solid rocket boosters excitingly going off, and the engines once more throttling up. Now let's cut again, fire, solid rocket boosters activating, stage again to start that engine, beautiful, and then let's angle the camera there a bit more, cut that engine, and fire that, oh, I blew something up, oh, something's not correctly oh, I think that's the Lunar Module exploding. Alright, so maybe something in this isn't quite 100% finished, but overall, well, yep, I think I destroyed the lunar module by accident. Oh no, Valentina. Yep, she's dead. Alright, but at least we have the capsule. Oh boy. And then we can cut that and deploy our parachutes. Yay! We have a lunar capsule. But yes, this has been the Saturn V mod, a great little combination of parts for you to build your own Apollo mission. They are all beautifully made, wonderfully detailed, and just cool parts to have. So if you'd like to check this out for yourself, which I would definitely recommend you go and do, you can have a look at the link in the description as per usual. But that's going to be it for today, my friends. I hope you have enjoyed and that you do come back for the next episode, when hopefully we'll be looking at yet another wonderful mod. But until that time, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good one. Deploy the final chutes. There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Later, folks.